Hey, Christian therapist, are you craving a counseling career that aligns with your faith and actually supports your well being? Welcome to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm Kimberly Van Hooser, Christian therapist, private practice owner, and business coach for mental health professionals like you. In this podcast, you'll get practical strategies and faith led guidance to help you build a thriving private practice, one that serves your clients well and makes an impact for the kingdom of God. So, what are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and join me for today's episode. Welcome to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Van Hooser. I help therapists partner with God to build private practices that will flourish. If you are thinking about starting a private practice, or perhaps you've been in private practice for a while now and you're just feeling like you need a little bit more guidance to get you going in the direction that you need to go, then I'd love to work with you in one-on-one coaching. When you book a session with me, I'll send you my private practice clarity assessment. This will help us pinpoint the exact areas in your practice that need more attention so we can create a 90-day plan to help you get to where you need to be. You'll leave our session with specific action steps to take over the next 3 months to help you accomplish your practice goals. You can book a session by visiting www.kimberlyvanhooser.com, and I'll also leave my Calendly in the show notes below. Okay, it's time to dive into the content for today's episode. We have just started the month of August, and I was praying into what God was wanting me to release to my audience this month. And the theme that I felt Him direct me to focus on is renewing our minds. How can we be thinking the way that He wants us to think as sons and daughters of God, as therapists, as business owners? How we think is so important. If we're not thinking correctly, it's going to be reflected in our decision making. It's going to be reflected in how we run our business and how impactful our businesses are. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to think like a private practice owner. Before I started my private practice, I was always used to working for someone. I was a great employee. I knew how to show up on time, how to do my tasks with excellence. I was great at doing what I was told and just focusing in on my clinical work or whatever my assignment was. But then I started private practice and I had to make the shift from the mindset of an employee to a private practice owner. And I bet a lot of you can resonate with that. There are probably so many of you who have never started your own business before. You've been used to just going along with whatever your boss might be instructing you to do. So being a practice owner is definitely different from being an employee. And I see a lot with people who are starting their private practice that they're not even aware that there's a mindset shift that needs to take place from employee to practice owner. And even if they are aware, they're not quite sure exactly what it entails to think like a private practice owner. So that's the inspiration for today's podcast. One of the major differences between being an employee and a business owner is a difference in responsibilities. When you're an employee or even an independent contractor working for another agency, your responsibilities are designated to you. Generally speaking, they're going to be a lot more narrow and limited than the responsibilities that you might have as a private practice owner. So you're likely just responsible for running clinical sessions, probably writing your notes and reports, possibly showing up for some team meetings. You might have some groups that you're in charge of, but you are responsible for doing whatever is assigned to you by your boss. You're likely not going to have to focus much on networking or marketing or billing clients, developing the processes for how you're going to find new clients, onboard new clients, work with clients, because all of that has already been determined for you by the owner of the practice or the owner of the company. Now, when you choose to open your own private practice, you are now responsible for all aspects of your business. You get to figure out which EHR to use, how to have an online presence, which website you're going to choose, how are you going to get that website built, what fees are you going to collect, how will you do that, will you accept insurance, will you not, what types of clients do you want to work with, what are your cancellation policies? When will you see clients? How many clients will be on your caseload? Where will you see clients? How are you going to get your bookkeeping done and your accounting? You are essentially responsible for literally everything in your practice and how it's run. This doesn't mean that you can't delegate anything, but it means that you are responsible for figuring out what you are going to delegate, how you're going to do that. You're basically responsible for all the ins and outs of your business. Oftentimes, I see therapists in private practice who don't seem to really want to take on all the responsibilities of being a private practice owner. What they're hoping for is just having a full caseload where they get to focus on doing therapy with clients. They don't want to do the legwork to get there or to do any of the upkeep. Maybe they know that they should do it, so they do some marketing attempts, but they forget to maintain and nurture those relationships. They know that they need to do their bookkeeping and accounting, but they put it on the back burner, so their books are completely behind. And that's going to lead to problems in the sustainability of their practice. So it's okay if you, as a private practice owner, don't love doing absolutely all of the tasks that are required of a practice owner. But when you choose to go into private practice, you are choosing to take on the responsibility of everything that is entailed. Sometimes I hear clinicians who want to start a private practice because they've been part of a group practice and they are tired of the fee split, or they think that the fee split is really unfair. Now, I'm sure it's true that there are group practices out there who take an unfair percentage of the fee that their employees are working for. However, I think a lot of the time clinicians are unaware of how much really goes into running a practice. So if you're working for another company or for a practice and all you have to do is really show up, they fill your caseload, they take care of your rent, they take care of your EHR, you don't have to worry about doing any of the billing. Maybe you're even getting some health insurance or paid time off. You barely have to network. They have set up your website for you. You don't have to worry about maintaining a website. They might even offer you CEUs. That doesn't come free. Someone has to pay for that. It also wouldn't make any sense from a business perspective for someone to open a group practice if they're not going to be receiving any sort of financial benefit from having other therapists see clients for them. So if you're in a group practice right now and you've just been really thinking about, wow, if I go into private practice, then I'm going to be making my full fee instead of only 60% of it, just recognize that there is a large cost and a lot of work to starting your own private practice. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but just so you are stepping into private practice with the mindset of a private practice owner and not just an employee. I want you to be fully aware of the decision that you're making, knowing that it comes with responsibilities that are yours to take on. Don't end up resenting the responsibilities or neglecting the responsibilities because that's not going to lead to a sustainable, flourishing practice. So, just to reiterate, my first point is there's a huge difference in responsibilities from being an employee to being a private practice owner. So, you have to be thinking when you're a private practice owner of those responsibilities and making sure you're taking all of those into account. No one else is going to do that for you. Now, as Christians, we do have the wonderful benefit of getting to partner with God in our private practice building. And sometimes I do see Christians who are in their private practice and they're like, I'm not going to market because God's just going to bring me the right clients. They don't want to fully step into those responsibilities because they figure God can do it for them. And it's true, He can. But I would just encourage you to make sure you're discerning from Holy Spirit. If He is telling you, don't do any marketing or networking, or don't worry about this task right now, you can listen to Him. But don't be doing that just from a place of blind faith when it's really just covering up your lack of desire or motivation to do things that feel hard or uncomfortable. So now you might be wondering, why even start a private practice? It sounds pretty hard, and I'm probably not going to be as rich as I thought I would after leaving my group practice because that 40% that I was giving of my client fees is actually going to all the business startup costs and the cost of running a business. So let's talk about a little bit more of the fun stuff because there are very good reasons for starting a private practice. So, when you're a private practice owner, not only do you need to think differently when it comes to responsibilities, but you get to think differently in terms of your authority. There's a very big difference between the authority that an employee has and the authority that a private practice owner has. When you're an employee, you really don't get that much authority. You might have authority to conduct your therapy sessions to an extent the way that you see fit, but you have to follow a lot of other people's rules. You have to follow the rules and structure of the practice or the business that you're working for. You might be required to work specific hours or a certain number of hours every week. You might be required to take on clients that you'd rather not work with. You might have certain requirements in order to make sure that your clients can continue using their insurance, and you might have different reports that you need to write to make sure that they are meeting criteria for continued care. And none of these are bad things in and of itself, but you are limited in the authority that you have when you're an employee. Now, when you're a private practice owner, you basically have unlimited authority to do whatever you want and run your business the way you see fit, outside of what our ethical requirements are and the standards of our professional licensure. There's so much freedom that comes from getting to be a private practice owner. So, yes, there's a lot of responsibilities, but then you have the authority to design and create the practice that you feel led to create. You don't need to ask your boss for permission if you want to start a certain group. You just get to go do it. You don't have to take on every single client that comes your way. You get to say yes and no as you see fit. You get to be the one who makes the decisions. Of course, if we are partnered with God, we still want to check in with Him and be cognizant of where He's guiding and directing us. But remember, He's still giving you the role of private practice owner. You are not just an employee. Oftentimes, I see private practice owners who are unsure of their authority. They're feeling really insecure about their decision making. They feel bad about saying no to clients who aren't a good fit. They're basically waiting or hoping that someone will just tell them what they need to do in their business. And we all need help sometimes. And especially if you're new to starting your own business, get some education, seek support, seek coaching. That is important. But I want you to start thinking about yourself and your business in terms of the authority that you've been gifted by the Lord to cultivate and shape your private practice. I think the thing that I love most about private practice is having been able to get to shape it into the business that I want, the business that God has placed on my heart. I know I was impactful in working at other practices and for other businesses. I know I did a great job with my clients and still made an impact with them, but it's felt so much more impactful being in private practice, getting to operate in the way that I operate best. So let's summarize the difference between thinking like an employee versus thinking like a private practice owner. An employee has way fewer responsibilities that they don't need to worry about. All they have to do is show up, do the task that they are required and asked to do the way that they are asked to do it. While a business owner is responsible for essentially how everything in their business is run. So they need to be thinking about how do I take care of all of these different areas and responsibilities so my practice can flourish. An employee is limited in their authority and what they get to choose to do in their business and the practice that they work for. They have requirements and expectations that they have to meet versus getting to define those for themselves. While a private practice owner gets to shape and design the practice that they feel led to shape and design. They get to operate their business in the way that they think is best without having to offend a boss. Sometimes I still see private practice clinicians who are allowing clients to define their treatment or how they run their business. That's the other thing that you need to be aware of is your clients aren't your boss either. You're not working for them, you're working with them. Don't forget your authority. God has given you your authority as a practice owner. It is a gift and you need to steward it well. That is your responsibility. So I'd like to give you some takeaways so you can apply this to your actual life. I encourage you to take some time and reflect. Write down any areas where you might be acting or thinking like an employee versus thinking like a private practice owner. Are there responsibilities that you are neglecting or resenting or failing to notice as a private practice owner? What are those? Make an agreement to take care of those responsibilities. And then are you truly utilizing your authority as a private practice owner? Or are you simply waiting for other people to tell you what to do? Are you failing to take responsibility for stewarding your mental and intellectual resources well? Are you business planning? So take some time and just reflect on are you thinking like a private practice owner? Invite God into this. He is your partner. He is working with you. But if you're seeking private practice because you believe God has called you into it, then He has given you permission to operate in the authority as a private practice owner. And if you are feeling burdened by all the responsibilities of a private practice owner, know that you can share the load with him. He has a solution for how you can manage every single responsibility that is on your plate right now. If you are feeling overwhelmed or stuck or confused, I encourage you to reach out and book a one-on-one coaching session with me. There's no obligation to commit to an expensive coaching program. You can simply book these sessions a la carte with me. I will send you a private practice clarity assessment so we can really pinpoint what areas we need to focus on. And then in our session, we'll have time to establish a very clear goal and some specific action steps for you to work on over the next 90 days with or without my support so you can meet your private practice goals. My contact information is in the show description below. I'll also be offering a fall connection and consultation group launching in September. So if that's something that you would like to join and be a part of to have accountability and support from other clinicians in private practice, feel free to contact me. I'd love to have you join. I hope this podcast was helpful, and I look forward to having you with me in the next episode. If you found value in today's episode, would you leave a written review on Apple Podcasts? It helps other faith-led clinicians like you find the show. And don't forget to join my free Facebook community, Start and Grow Your Private Practice as a Christian Therapist, where you'll join other clinicians for encouragement, accountability, and free tips and support. See you there.